The summer of 2025 brings not warmth, but a chilling sense of crisis to the United States. Americans everywhere feel the ground shifting beneath their feet, as the nation faces both a foreign war and a domestic emergency. Abroad, the U.S. is now embroiled in a direct conflict between Israel and Iran, breaking President Trump's promise to avoid new wars. At home, the deployment of U.S. Marines to Los Angeles without state approval sparks outrage and fear of federal overreach. Images of missile strikes overseas and armed soldiers on American streets blur the line between foreign and domestic threats. The detention of civilians and arrest of officials fuel fears of creeping authoritarianism. Protests erupt nationwide as citizens question whether their rights and democracy are still secure. The crisis is no longer abstract. It's a daily reality, pushing Americans to demand accountability. June 2025 marks the moment when these tensions ignite a movement for the restoration of democratic norms. The Middle East conflict escalates rapidly after Israel's preemptive airstrikes on Iran's nuclear sites. Iran retaliates with a massive missile barrage, targeting Israeli cities and drawing the U.S. into direct military engagement. American forces help intercept Iranian missiles, marking a clear break from Trump's non-interventionist campaign promises. The White House's mixed messaging, admitting foreknowledge of Israel's attack while claiming it was unilateral, fuels confusion and suspicion at home. The administration's actions fracture Trump's political base, with prominent conservatives publicly denouncing the war. The State Department evacuates diplomats and military families, signaling the seriousness of the conflict. The war is no longer just a foreign policy issue, it's a political crisis dividing the nation. Critics accuse the administration of betraying its core supporters and dragging America into another endless war. The consequences ripple through Washington as the president's credibility and coalition begin to unravel. The war's impact is immediate, reshaping alliances and deepening domestic divisions. America's entry into the conflict becomes a flashpoint for protest and political realignment. The administration's justifications ring hollow for many, intensifying calls for accountability. The nation is left questioning who truly controls its foreign policy, and at what cost. The war's shockwaves reach home as President Trump deploys National Guard and 200 active-duty Marines to Los Angeles, without state consent. The move, defying a federal judge's order to block the deployment, is seen as a direct challenge to the separation of powers. Armed Marines patrol city streets, blurring the line between military and police and igniting fears of political intimidation. Homeland Security Director Kristi Noem admits the deployment serves political purposes, confirming critics' worst suspicions. Reports emerge of Marines detaining civilians, including a decorated veteran, turning abstract fears into concrete threats. The military presence becomes a symbol of eroding democratic norms and unchecked executive power. For many, this is no longer a policy debate, it's a frightening new reality. The deployment galvanizes opposition as citizens see the foundations of their republic under siege. The crisis in Los Angeles becomes a rallying point for those demanding a return to constitutional order. Mahmoud Khalil, a Columbia grad student and legal U.S. resident, is arrested for his political views critical of Israel. His detention, ruled unconstitutional by a federal judge, continues as the administration refuses to comply, citing dubious legal technicalities. Khalil's case becomes a national flashpoint, symbolizing the erosion of free speech and due process. Civil liberties groups warn that if the executive can ignore court orders, the rule of law is in jeopardy. Khalil's plight inspires protests nationwide, his face appearing on banners as a symbol of resistance. The administration's defiance of the courts galvanizes a movement demanding justice and accountability. The case is no longer about one man, it's a test of whether American democracy can withstand political pressure. Khalil's continued detention is a stark warning. Constitutional rights are only as strong as the government's willingness to honor them. The administration's crackdown extends to Congress, with lawmakers arrested or blocked from performing their duties. A U.S. senator is handcuffed for questioning detention policies. A congresswoman is charged after being denied access to an ICE facility in her district. These incidents, broadcast nationwide, spark outrage and fears of political repression. The executive's actions undermine the legislative branch's oversight role, threatening the balance of power. Arresting elected officials signals a dangerous shift toward authoritarian tactics. The public sees these acts as a wake-up call. Democracy is under direct threat. The treatment of lawmakers convinces many that the rule of law is no longer guaranteed. In response, a decentralized movement, No Kings in America, emerges, uniting citizens across the political spectrum. The movement organizes mass protests in all 50 states, countering a planned military parade in Washington, D.C. No Kings rallies draw a diverse cross-section of American students, veterans, lawyers, and parents. The movement's broad appeal reflects widespread alarm at the administration's assault on democratic norms. Protesters demand a return to the rule of law, separation of powers, and the right to dissent. The demonstrations become one of the largest civic mobilizations in recent history. No Kings is a reminder that ultimate authority belongs to the people, not any single leader. As thousands march, they reaffirm the foundational ideals of the Republic. Public opinion shifts sharply as images of military crackdowns and federal overreach dominate the news. Polls show declining support for Trump's handling of immigration and civil unrest, even among independents and younger Republicans. The administration's actions fracture its coalition, with anti-war conservatives and civil libertarians joining the opposition. Legal challenges and public pressure yield small victories. Deported individuals are returned, and controversial legislation is withdrawn. These wins prove that resistance can still make a difference, even in dark times. The system of checks and balances, though strained, endures. The fight for democracy is far from over, but hope remains. The story of 2025 is not just one of crisis, but of a people determined to reclaim their future.